Hello, thank you for joining us. I'm Yuson of FIGHT. As we all know, critical information is key for survival and resilience in any disaster, especially after Super Typhoon Rolly or hashtag RollyPH that hit the Bicol region and Catanduanes and parts of southern Luzon. And we want to know today whether information and how information is being used to not only save lives, but hopefully help us prepare for the next disasters or the next calamities. So today, I'm joined by three people who will talk to us about their experiences, information, lalo-lalo na sa mapping at anong ginagawa natin ngayon no, as a nation. Kasama ko ngayon si Mikko Tamura, lead advocate of MapBex Maps. Yung daytime job niya is an operations associate for community engagement at Grab. Also with us is Andi Tabinas, member of GeoLadies PH and Ministry of Mapping. Kasama rin siya sa ICT Management Service of DSWD. And later on, we'll be joined by Kristian Rivera, a FIGHT community reporter. He just attended the training conducted by the Humanitarian OpenStreetMaps team, or HOT Team Philippines, and he'll talk to us later about his experience. So punta naman na tayo kay Mikko at kay Andi. Can we start first with the basics? No? Kasi baka yung ibang mga nanonood, hindi nila alam kung ano talaga yung mapping. Kasi ano natin yung map, pero what is mapping? So maybe Mikko or Andi, can you tell us a bit more about mapping and OpenStreetMaps?
So hi guys, I'm Mikko. So basically mapping provides us information or location of where our basic features or facilities are in the world. So what we do in mapping is that we use platforms wherein we could make maps such as GIS, and particularly in this case OpenStreetMap or OSM. So OSM is an online worldwide volunteer project of mapping wherein anyone in the world, anytime in the world, people can contribute onto this mapping project. They could add roads, buildings, land use, features like sari-sari stores, pharmacies, hospitals, and they could do it in the feature of their homes. Basta may internet and may laptop ka lang, you could actually contribute to OpenStreetMap and map out your community on it.
Pero Mikko, yung mapping parang ginagawa yun ng mga geographers, experts, professionals. Bakit ngayon pwedeng gawin ng kahit ano o kahit sino pala?
So basically, yes, yun yung initial myth na kailangan expert ka in GIS or mapper ka to contribute the data. Pero in real life, we as human beings, we are technically mappers in ourselves. We get to one place to another. We use navigation to go to the house, to the mall, and things like that. And yung knowledge between those interactions natin using data or yung location data can greatly be used by other people, especially in cases of disasters such as yung nangyari nga with this typhoon and other disasters in the past. Kaya maganda rin na i-involve din ang community or the ordinary individual in the mapping process kasi kanya-kanyang knowledge tayo, kanya-kanyang experiences through space, through time, ang pwede rin nating ilagay sa map.
Great, thanks. Punta naman tayo kay Andi. Andi, pagdating sa mapping, no, ano yung usefulness niya? I think nabanggit din kanina ni Mikko, doon sa disaster preparedness and pati na rin sa response and recovery efforts. At sino ba dapat gumagamit ng maps nito?
Ayun po. Yung maps po kasi right now, very useful siya, especially since yung nabanggit ni Mikko na lahat tayo mappers in our own sense. Kasi lahat tayo may local knowledge. So yung local knowledge na yun, yung parang knowledge natin sa mga lugar kung saan yung mga familiar tayo. So through our local knowledge, pwede tayong makatulong sa pag-map or pagturo. For example, during the disasters, we can show saan yung mga blocked roads, saan yung mga households na affected or areas affected by the disaster. So mas madaling maituro kung paano yung response and recovery planning for the government, NGOs, and other people na gustong tumulong sa response. So maps could help even those na new to mapping or not really familiar with GIS or geography kasi there are a lot of platforms now that enable basic mapping din kung sa kahit sinong gustong tumulong sa mga crowd mapping projects like OpenStreetMap.
And sabi niyo kanina kailangan ng internet connection, pero meron bang paraan kung pwedeng tumulong din yung mga walang internet connection at mag-relay ng information na mahalaga dun sa mga OpenStreetMappers?
Actually, meron po. For OpenStreetMap, there are other platforms or softwares na rin na ginawa na pwede kang mag-map, for example, on your phone, tapos habang walang internet, doon ka lang muna mag-draw ng polygons or ng points, and then once there's available, pwede mong ma-upload yung data. Tapos yun, Mikko, baka may gusto kang dagdag.
In some cases naman, yung mere point, gaya ng ginagawa ni Kristian na nagko-collect ng information through social media and calling people, yung mere point lang na pag na-identify natin kung saan barangay or purok or town can actually help build out that visualization of a map and position yung mga nangyayari at ilagay siya doon sa map. So kahit hindi siya totally directed to OpenStreetMap, may way din to actually crowdsource that information and contribute as well to the mapping process.
Okay. So punta naman tayo sa what can a map tell us pagdating sa isang disaster or before a disaster strikes, no? And if you can, cite specifically ano yung experience natin sa Typhoon Rolly, no? What information did we have about the affected areas before the disaster, before the typhoon struck, and what information are you gathering now after the disaster?
Sige.
Anyone, go ahead.
I'll start na. With the sa yung ngayon sa maps po before the disasters, it's good na we already have a lot of map buildings and built up areas through OpenStreetMap na para mas for now kasi kunwari alam na natin kung saan nakapwesto yung mga residential areas and other buildings before the disaster. After a disaster strikes, we can see din kung saan dito yung mga naapektuhan na bahay. Before for example, before may building dito, ngayon after a landslide, paano or bakit wala yung mga previously mapped buildings dito. Ibig sabihin, we have to respond kasi there are residents that could have been affected by a landslide, by the flooding, ganyan. So we can direct the response and doon sa mga lugar na yun kasi alam na natin yung previous locations ng mga tao.
Great. Mikko, may dadagdag ka ba?
Similarly, very tamang-tama yung pasok mo, Andy, dun sa pagsagot ng question. So, based on our experience then with previous disasters such as Yolanda or yung Marawi siege, mahirap kumilos kung hindi mo alam kung saan nakalugar ang mga bagay-bagay. Especially external organizations ang papasok to help, not people not within the locality yung papasok to help, di ba? So it gives us a background then on kung paano tayo tutulong more efficiently and more effectively if we have that data. So coming from the experiences of Yolanda and other disasters, it was really important then na may data na siguro when it comes to when an impending disaster will happen. Kasi papasok dyan yung roads. How do supplies get from one point to another? Papasok dyan yung affected area. It's important to know that yes, we have the population data in our tables, but knowing where they are on the map is just as crucial in saving their lives. Diba? So, then post-disaster, there comes yung rehabilitation. You need to know which places are suitable to rehabilitate these people who have been affected. So, etong data talaga is ugat at ugat talaga ng ng pagmamapa din, at yun din yung naging inspiration namin ni Andy to give more and do more for the data, especially in the disaster cases in the Philippines.
Yeah, gusto ko lang din po i-add kasi yung fact na we can map if there are residents or people near the ocean kasi merong possibility of storm surges. We can actually tell the residents there na may possibility ng ganito kataas na storm surge, so we must evacuate. Yun. So alam natin kung saan yung mga tao na ma-warn natin before a disaster comes in, kung paano rin sila ma-evacuate from their places. Yun.
It's great. pag-usapan naman natin yung other information that can be mapped and that we might not be paying close attention to, especially pagdating sa disaster or post-disaster. Andy, member ka ng GeoLadies PH, Mikko, member ka ng MapBex. What are the things that you're looking at in your smaller teams that that we might be ignoring? Let's thinking about like mental health, other services for women that might be needed. Can you tell us more? Sige, Andy muna, and then Mikko.
Yeah. Actually, aside from Mom and GeoLadies PH, I'm also part of the Mental Health Awareness Project. So we map po yung available mental health services and facilities in the Philippines. So that's through that map, we can show people kung saan sila makakalapit for their mental health. And after the disaster, sobrang important nung post-disaster psychological help for the people. So maganda rin na alam ng mga tao or maituturo natin sa kanila kung saan sila makaka-avail ng free services or services offered by different agencies para dun sa mental health nila. Yun. So, and aside from that, for women naman, women and children, breastfeeding sites and healthcare centers na makaka-cater sa needs nila as women and children. So, important na ma-map yung mga data po na yun.
Great. How about Mikko?
So for MapBex naman, since our advocacy is really on LGBT representation and inclusion, this also includes the PLHIV community in engaging with the mapping community. So mas specific in the case of the pandemic, yung ginawa namin. And possibly din sa Rolly, since we were mapping health facilities for HIV testing and treatment hubs where these people, very, very vulnerable and neglected people can get their medicine. Since tumama nga to si Bagyo, more or less nag-close down or nag-rumble-rumble na naman ang situation gaya nangyari nung pandemic. So we try to set up a directory not just for Bicol and for Calabarzon and affected areas, but all over the Philippines. Similar with Andy, we try to provide specific and targeted maps for these very vulnerable groups and people then.
Great, critical information indeed. So tell me, how many or how has the usage been for these maps that you're making, that you're helping produce, for example, by the government or by the local government or siguro by other NGOs, humanitarian organizations that are going in to help? What's the feedback been so far in terms of using this information?
I'll start na rin po. For the mental health services naman, we've started since 2018. Pero ngayon, our reach, just sa Facebook pa lang, we've reached around 1.9 million people sa mga IEC materials naman, information, education, and communication materials on mental health. And we've also trained more than 400 volunteers and mental health advocates to help map kahit wala silang background sa GIS or mapping. They also help map these services all over the country. And for the for Typhoon Rolly naman, marami pa rin nagsisignify na gustong tumulong, nagtatanong, I'm not familiar with mapping buildings, pero paano to, gusto ko makatulong. Kasi very user-friendly rin yung ginagamit sa OpenStreetMap para madaling makatulong kahit sino on the crowd mapping. So, yun. So far, maganda po yung feedback. Even the people na hindi talaga map savvy, maraming gustong mag-volunteer.
Sa case naman namin, specifically sa Rolly, we know kasi that there are specific NGOs that use OpenStreetMap in terms of their response. For example, I've also worked with the Philippine Red Cross, and we actually integrated the OpenStreetMap platform into their services so that if there is a need for them to identify yung areas, andun na yung data mas readily available. Kasi what's good with OpenStreetMap is once you edit a place or a road, it quickly shows up on the map in 5 to 10 minutes. Unlike other platforms na kailangan mo ng mas urgent na data, medyo maghihintay ka pa ng a year. Sa MapBex naman, we have actually conducted several GSC trainings in partnership with LGUs. So para para din ma-push namin yung representation in partnership nga na to. We draw their buildings and roads dun sa locality. Specifically, we are handling towns in Maguindanao, Barira, Paglat, Sultan sa Barangay. So, okay, so GSE tayo, then we help you draw your maps and provide data. So parang ganun yung trade-offs namin.
So may partnerships kayo, not just with the government, but with NGOs. So amazing to hear. Siguro that connects me to this question. No? Have we learned anything from the previous typhoons? Halimbawa, Super Typhoon Yolanda, dati wala pang mapping, open street mapping. Ngayon parang available na siya. But have we actually done better sa tingin nyo?
Actually, sa akin naman, yes. Oo. There's a lot of improvement naman po. Compared to Yolanda kasi I was part of the response team of DSWD and Yolanda before. And a huge problem before was yung access to internet and data, pati communications during Yolanda. Pero ngayon na hindi naman masyadong naging problema yon during the Rolly. And meron na tayong mga available na map buildings, roads, and other important points through OpenStreetMap and other platforms. Mas madali nating na tuturo nga in planning and response. So, ayun, naging easier ngayon yung collaboration between organizations kung paano makatulong sa response and mapping.
Yeah, yes, to add din to that, sobrang laki na rin nung leap ng mapping, especially in terms of open data, since nagiging famous na rin siya with various organizations, LGUs, even private corporations have been using OpenStreetMap for their navigation. And that basically comes into where the OpenStreetMap community has been growing in the past 5 years ever since Yolanda. So even before Yolanda happened naman, meron namang mapping na initiatives from the OpenStreetMap community na nangyayari wherein we go to the field, we collect the data itself and upload it to OpenStreetMap. Pero with the past years nga, it grew exponentially because the need for this type of data has been emphasized through the sunod-sunod nating mga ganap sa buhay. Ayan. Yes, sir.
Ending talaga. May forever sa mga typhoons dito sa Pilipinas. That's good to know na may mapping even before Typhoon Yolanda. So balikan naman natin yung sinabi nyo kanina, anyone can volunteer and map. Before we go to our volunteer and ask him how he went through the process, can you tell us what is the process for volunteering to be an OpenStreet mapper?
So basically, what a volunteer would need to first do is to go to osm.org and register. So when he gets there, he would be able to get the training that he needs. Basic training pa lang naman, but the basic concept here is that you'll just be drawing buildings or polygons, lines, and roads which represent a particular feature or facility. So the materials are there on the website, and I guess Kristian went through the training as well, but that was for the tasking manager. So in times of disasters like this, there are probably chances wherein, for example, Kristian would be drawing an area and I'll be drawing the area at the same time, and that might have a problem with the data. So the tasking manager by Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team allows mappers to actually simultaneously map so that their data won't get patong-patong like that. Yes. So it's very easy, and there are YouTube videos that can help you teach map. So anyone can actually be trained with OpenStreetMap and map their communities or help map other communities in the world. You just need to register. Students, we were able to conduct trainings for students, for LGBT organizations, for mental health advocates, and various other communities in the past weeks, even before the disaster happened.
That's good, great. Punta naman si Kristian. Kristian, Fight Community Reporter na naging OpenStreetMap trainee. Kumusta naman yung experience mo? First, before you talk about your experience, ano yung nakita mo muna? Ano yung nakalap mong balita from the ground?
Actually po, sir, before anything else, it was such a great experience to be able to witness a lot of stories of resilience around the communities around the Philippines, especially uh, those areas and communities who are severely affected by Rolly. And I think po, sir, there's a lot. I mean, there's hundreds of information that I was able to grasp. And the best thing and the best part of being able to contribute for this disaster, kasi of course, we've been through a lot of hardships and difficulties, and it's such a great opportunity to volunteer and to actually contribute something for the betterment of the community. And the best part po is that I was able to interview those people, and it's not just the information alone that is important, but also the lives of the people that concerned me a lot with the whole journey and with the whole process that I was a community reporter for Fight po, sir.
Great. Thank you. And thank you also for sharing your stories and stories from people that I know were messaging you, no, during the typhoon. So, kumusta naman yung experience mo as an open street mapper?
At first po, sir, honestly, I'm kind of nervous kasi I'm not that much of a techie person. But when I've been able to experience naman the whole process, it was actually simple lang pala. It's easy to use. And I thought there's a lot of technicalities, but marami siyang features, sir, but then it's easy to use kasi there's guide, there's walkthrough, there's YouTube videos that you can watch so that you can be able to learn more about the proper mapping. And very simple lang siya gamitin, sir, kasi may tiles din siya wherein there's distinction between kung ano yung mga places na mapped out na, ano yung mga places na hindi pa na mapped out, what are the, and meron din siyang mga parang notifications, sir, na there's particular places na urgent talaga so that people can really weigh and the importance of the accurate data din kasi based din sa experience ko as a journalist in connection din with the street with this website and with this application is that very important din yung accuracy ng barangays, ng locations, ng residential areas, and it actually helps a lot not just during these trying times but also to a lot of organizations. These website po and this application, it was all good po, sir.
That's great. Great na maganda yung experience mo. But as a journalist also, and as someone who is, more connected to what's happening because you're watching and monitoring social media, you're talking to your contacts, no? Baka you have feedback then for the OpenStreetMap team or the members here, how they can further connect this information to people, or how can people really take this information and use it to help, prepare for any typhoon or disaster that might come.
Okay po, sir. Siguro po, sir, in simpler context, I think they were able to to present the website well, but I think it should be presented in larger context that people can actually be educated about it. Kasi I mean, there's instances kasi sir na parang when you hear the mapping or geospatial data, it's actually unfamiliar words, and when if i-introduce nila po in a simpler context ganun po, parang it's actually a very honor. It's been an honor to use that kind of app, and siguro yun lang po parang to better understand din po sa mga youth and sa mga people who are really into volunteering and volunteerism. Yan lang naman po, sir.
Great. Thanks, Kristian. Andy, Mikko, baka meron kayong mga advice on how young people can learn about these technical terms in a easier way, easy to understand way?
Share ko din po yung learning na Ngayon, isa sa mga natutunan ko na kahit medyo sa simula overwhelming and medyo takot makita or mabasa yung words, geospatial, GIS, ganyan. If you're not familiar with these words, nakatulong yung social media, Facebook and Twitter, to reach the youth and the volunteers na willing tumulong. Kasi ang laki ng impact na dadala na post natin siya sa social media, and mas maraming nare-reach na kids, mga tao na gustong tumulong, in any age actually, na gustong tumulong. Kasi mas nagigets nila and mas nalalamanize din natin yung terms para sa kanila. Mas hindi intimidating kapag instead na nasa website lang siya makikita, just go to this website or anything. If it's on Facebook posts, Instagram, or mga feedback gaya ng mga ni Kristian na nagpo-provide ng feedback and these platforms na pwede nating ma-share yung experiences natin as newbie mappers, malaking tulong para maka-encourage ng mas marami pong volunteers. So, ayun, ang laking tulong ng social media and other platforms kaya na mapalawak yung reach natin sa mapping.
Yes, thank you. At saka yung mga students din, this is a very good platform and actually relaxing siya. Kapag kunyari medyo you get the hang of it, Kristian, okay, gusto ko maganda lang yung madodrawing kong mga. Pero what we could suggest is that wag tayong kabahan. Kami din kinabahan ni Andy when we did it first kasi hindi rin naman kami yung elders or yung dunong-dunungan dito sa OpenStreetMap or marunong. Through that process na we learn na napapagalitan din kami na okay, mali yung na-drawing mo, okay, edit natin. And it's a process din na we should be ready, especially in these kinds. Pero ang maganda dyan, lumaki na rin ang volunteer pool. And there are more volunteers, especially with the pandemic, there are more volunteers who are willing to give their time and internet connection and the effort to draw. We would like to thank this platform then for helping us get to more volunteers and share this knowledge that mapping is very easy. Madali lang siya. It's like you drawing on a picture, identifying saan yung buildings, and that data can be actually used by several other people, several other organizations, not for just disaster response, but marami pang ibang pwedeng magamit yung data. Yun lang po.
Great. And for the benefit of our viewers, can you mention who are the names of the organizations behind this initiative? Just so they can also do their own research, no?
Yes. If you want to know more about how you could help with mapping, you can always visit OpenStreetMap. We at Ministry of Mapping with GLADs, Mental Health Awareness, Youth Mappers, MapBex, and the Humanitarian OpenStreetMap team have always been collaborating in being ready for these disasters or supporting local communities who are interested to map. So you can just type in on Facebook or on Google those names that I mentioned, and every single org would be more than happy to accommodate your questions and inquiries.
Great, thank you, Mikko. Okay, final words from our speakers. Let's start with Andy, Mikko, and then we'll end with Kristian.
Okay. Thank you very much po for providing this platform for us to reach more people and to share our experiences on mapping. And gusto ko lang po idagdag, if anyone also wants to help collect contact informations of the LGUs in regions 4A, 4B, and 5, we also have this crowdsourcing platform. Actually, Google Docs lang siya para kahit sino pwedeng mag-share ng information kung alam nila yung contact details, Facebook pages ng mga DRR offices nila sa LGUs. And we also share these dun sa organizations na na-mention ni Mikko, Mental Health Awareness, MapEx, Ministry of Mapping, GLADs PH. And if you want to see then yung actual data ng mga contact numbers na to, we also have the dashboard where you can view these information. So just check our pages out for more information and for other projects that you can help with and volunteer with. Again, thank you.
Ayan. Thank you then. Thank you ulit for this platform wherein we could reach more people and inform more people, and possibly that we know that the data networks that we have can share more information in the future disasters and calamities para mas mabilis din yung pag-action with the maps and the data that we could provide. So in addition to that, mukhang matatapos na yung 2 tasks that we released for this typhoon, but we might open 2 more tasks for Albay and Catanduanes since they have been heavily hit. So more on buildings naman to, specific location ng buildings in those areas kasi puro lahar and landslide and flooding yung nakikita. So you could always reach us on Facebook, Ministry of Mapping, and Mapbex, and if you have time and effort to provide and share, we'd be more than happy to ask for that help. Yun lang. Thank you.
So, my message po is that as a youth and as a journalist po, let's try to volunteer po with Open Streets kasi eventually po, after po ng whole process, after nyo po ma-learn, parang it would actually allow you to recognize a better sense of community po for a better community engagement din po with other people. Ayan lang po.
Thank you, Kristian, Mikko, and Andy for joining this conversation and sharing your passion about mapping and information. You know, that's it's part of storytelling, and this is why we're here today, and not just to tell our stories, but to tell the stories of the people affected by Super Typhoon Rolly. So we invite all of you, our viewers, followers on social media, whoever you are, whatever age you are, to be a fighter and be a mapper. You can help save lives by really gathering and sharing critical information during this, difficult times. And we always hope and pray that our Filipinos will recover from Super Typhoon Rolly, and sana for the next typhoons or whatever comes our way, there'll be zero casualties. So thank you very much for joining us. This is Yuson for Fight.